a massive headache. So
Can you hear me?
Father, we thank you for this day and the city in which we live. Please guide us this afternoon as we make our decisions. In Christ's name. Amen. This is the February 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Newnan City Council. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of January the 12th, 2021 before you. I'll entertain a motion. We adopt those minutes. Second. Motion is second. We adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion?
Yes, I have this correct code. Hey, there is a correction to the minutes. One of the businesses said Clever in Cork. I believe it should have said Cleaver in Cork.
Okay. Motion is second then is to adopt the minutes as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Those are the minutes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda are several appointments to boards and commissions. The first one is Tree Commission, Councilman Giuliano.
Yes, I would like to nominate Casey Childs.
Second.
Motion is second. We nominate Casey Child with the Tree Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next, Councilman Corretco, Newnan Activities Committee.
I'd appreciate that on the next meeting, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Ms. Jenkins, Ethics Commission. Ms. Jenkins.
I'm sorry, which one is it?
It's Alan Dean, Ethics Commission.
Yes, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Alan Dean to the Ethics Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second, we reappoint Mr. Alan Dean to the Ethics Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, the next appointment on the agenda is mine, and Jackie Binion is stepping down from the Housing Authority after many years of great service to the city of Newnan, and I'm appointing Jess Barron as his replacement.
Second.
Well, there's no second.
I'm sorry.
It's just my appointment, but I appreciate that. So Jess Barron is being appointed to the Housing Authority. The next one is also mine, the Parks Commission. I'd like to reappoint Beth Barnett to the Parks Commission.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next, also Parks Commission, Councilman Jamone.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Andy Walden.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next, Councilman Corretco, Planning Commission.
I'd like to reappoint Mr. Smith again.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. We reappoint Proctor Smith, I think was the name.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? To the
That's
Planning
correct.
Commission.
Correct.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next remainder of the appointments are all to the Christmas Commission. The first one is Councilman Alexander.
Yes, Miss Allison Ziegler no longer wants to continue. If we could send her a letter, please. And I'd like to nominate Pam Johnson.
Is there a second?
I'll
Is there a
second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next is mine. I would like to reappoint Ms. Val Cranford to the Christmas Commission. Motion is second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
like sign. Motion carried. The next is Mr. DeBose.
Yes, I'd like to appoint Deborah Marchman.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
like sign. Motion carried. The next, Councilman Jamone.
Yes, Ms. Donna Scales is going to step down, so I'm still looking, so I'd like it next meeting, please.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Jenkins, the next is also Christmas Commission. Ms. Jenkins?
I'll need to put that on the next agenda.
All right, thank you. Councilman Corretco, Christmas Commission.
I'd like to reappoint Ms. Jane Clifford to the Christmas Commission, please.
Second.
Motion and second, we reappoint Jane Clifford to the Christmas Commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. And Mayor Pro Tem Shell.
Yes, I'd like to reappoint Linda Arnold.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, we reappoint Linda Arnold to the Christmas Commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you very much for your cooperation on trying to get that list completed. Okay, so today, Mr. Phillips, you have anything for us?
No, sir, Mr.
I
Mayor.
don't have anything for us. Under new business, public hearing, application for alcohol beverage license, Newnan Lakes Business, Inc., DBA Newnan Lake Chevron. This is at 802B Lower Fayetteville Road. The reason for this is the new owners and the business name change. This is a public hearing on this alcohol license, and I'll ask if there's anyone who'd like to come forward to speak to the alcohol license application at this time. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is the applicant or representative of the applicant here today?
We asked them to send a letter acknowledging, and they have done so.
Good, thank you so much, I appreciate that. Everything is in order here. Is there a motion to approve the application?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the application is presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next is a public hearing for the City of Newnan's Comprehensive Plan Update 2021 through 2041, the first of two to be held. Mr. Cole, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, council members. The City of Newnan has initiated the process to begin a full update of its comprehensive plan. And as you might know, this is done every 5 years. The full comprehensive plan update will be prepared according to the rules adopted by DCA. The purpose of this public hearing is to brief the community on the process to be used to update the comprehensive plan, opportunities for public participation in the development of the plan update, and also to obtain input on the proposed planning process. In the coming months, staff plans to engage in conversations with residents and other stakeholders in locations around the community and through digital platforms as needed. We will also gather input through digital and hard copy surveys. In this effort, staff will utilize the city's website and social media to help disseminate information. In addition, a steering committee will help lead the city through this process and will serve as a key resource in the upcoming months. A second required public hearing will be held once the plan is drafted and made available for public review, but prior to its transmittal to the Regional Commission for review. The ideas and aspirations for the city that are shared will lay the foundation for the comp plan development. This plan update will allow the City of Newnan to maintain its qualified local government status and therefore be eligible for state grant funds, loans, and permits, and the due date is October 31st. And regarding the formation of the steering committee, our initial idea is to have the steering committee be comprised of a member from various city boards, commissions, and authorities. To do this, we would ask each chairperson of the respective groups to select one member from their group who is willing to serve on the steering committee. We anticipate having 2 steering committee meetings in March and 2 in April. And just for everyone's information, any questions about the comp plan process can be sent to a new email that we've established. The email is complan@cityofnewnan.org. Again, that's complan, COMPPLAN, @cityofnewnan.org, or by calling us at the planning department. And also, Mr. Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Anyone have any questions, Mr. Cole? This is a public hearing on this issue. Also, for the public to come forward and express their opinion and ask any questions. Council have anything? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Thank you very much. I close the public hearing at this time. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of the contract sale, realty, and development agreement related to the sale and development of residential property located at Harpers Farm. Mr. Craver, how are you?
I'm Will. Mayor Brady, members of the council, I'm here to, at your request. In September of 2020, this body unanimously elected to engage Neil Davis Homes for the construction of 7 single-family homes at properties that we've called Harpers Farm property. It took the city attorney and I, as well as surveyors, an amount of time between the September meeting and today to survey the property and bring back to you a contract for sale as well as an acceptable development agreement. You have that in your packet. You've seen it. You've reviewed it, I hope, and I'm prepared to answer any questions you have. Mr. Davis is also here in the audience, and he may make himself available to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone, anything?
I don't have any questions, but I have a statement.
Sure.
I guess I voted for it before because what the record says, but I don't really, maybe I didn't pay enough attention, but I think we're giving this away. I don't see the point in just giving something away. I understand that he said he has costs to build it up to a standard, but I just think we're giving something away that's an asset of the city. I'd rather see it sit there and be a park with nothing on it than just to give it away. I think our price is so low that it's nothing there. And I just totally opposed to giving it away.
Council?
I guess the fact that, since it was prior to me sitting on here, what I noticed it's been on, we've had it for since 2009, is that correct?
Yes.
So we've held it for such time with no obvious revenue from the property. So it seems to me to sell it the way it is for the price that it is, to get it off the books and then under the books, and put some property in there that's going to produce and families, et cetera, as well as just the value of the homes in the area. It just seems to me it's the way to go is just to clear it. And I would agree with the price that as it was agreed with before.
Mr. Craver, you have a comment?
No, sir. I'm just here to answer a question if anybody may have one.
How many acres total is it?
1.8 plus or minus. All of that area west of Casey, as shown on the exhibit above.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other comments?
I have one other question,
Yes.
and maybe it was stated in the contract, and it's possibly that I missed it, but on the section 3 of the encumbrances and specified in the contract, it states for a reasonable amount of time of acceptance of this contract, which to examine the title and et cetera. I guess my question is, what is an expectation of a reasonable amount of time? Days, months, weeks?
I think, and I hadn't looked back because we put this together for him to review, but there's a definitive closing date.
Yes.
Is there not?
Yes.
What was that date? Since I didn't get a printed agenda, I don't have it in front of me.
I can pull it up. It is, I think there's a time after contract. Let me pull it up for you.
For example, our contract with Caldwell Tanks is 15 business days.
Correct,
That's
yeah.
generally-
I understand that due diligence, yeah, but I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, to get this on the floor, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with the contract.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second that we move forward with what is presented today. Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Bud?
correct.
All right. Any other discussion?
I don't mean to interrupt. I want to answer the council person's question. It's 60 days.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Any other questions from anyone regarding, anybody understand the motion? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay.
Opposed?
2 opposed, 5 in favor. Motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request to close North and South Court Square between Jackson Street and East Court Square and Jefferson Street, West Court Square from 7:30 to 3 p.m. for Market Days 2021. This is brought to you by Main Street Program. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the closing of Court Square for Market Day in 2021. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next is consideration of facility use policy amendment and other related items.
Yes, Mayor Brady, members of the council, I'm going to have our coworker, Katie Mosley, come up and join me. What I'm going to do is introduce the item, and then Katie, who deals with this day in and day out, can answer any specific questions you may have. In the items that were prepared and delivered to you in your packet, and I have up here as exhibits, I know the typeface is quite small. I can't read it myself, but we can zoom it in if needed. What we'd like to do is just, we've had on-again, off-again conversations with members of this body as it's related to long-term contracts. We have the rental of city facilities, including the Howard Warner Community Center, the Howard Warner Gymnasium, the Wesley Street Gymnasium, Wadsworth Auditorium, as well as various public parks. This body, several years ago, in advance of us creating the Leisure Services Department, went through an exhaustive process of putting a policy in which we rent these facilities, but from time to time it's come into question as to maybe we should adopt or update, amend those policies. So we're here today with a couple of recommendations. And what Ms. Mosley is going to do is kind of lead you through the case for the change, answer any questions you may have, and then hopefully walking out of here we'll be able to answer a few questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mosley and we'll go from there.
Mosley, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Mayor. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good, thank you. I'm assuming this is, and you guys have this in front of you, correct? So you
Yes.
don't need me to go through word for word, but we have run into a couple of issues with multiple requests, overlapping time frames with word of mouth. We have great facilities, so lots of people want to use them, and they're trying to get in to use them for whether it be individual birthday parties, baby showers, or they've got a basketball team that they're trying to get in for regular practice. So we've got, word of mouth has been great. People have talked about us and told other groups about us. So we've got some conflicting requests and are looking to you for some guidance on how to handle that, and also just some updates that we have for rental agreements and fees. We've got great facilities and we want to keep them that way, that's for sure. So the first one that is on here is how to go about these long-term agreement requests, because we get several of them. We have several new ones that you can see. There's a schedule in there that shows the overlapping request and how many that we're getting, especially during the week in the afternoons. So after school, after the Boys and Girl Clubs vacate the gyms, is when most of our requests are coming in, primarily for the Howard Warner Gym.
And if I can speak more specifically to what Ms. Mosley just mentioned, if you can see in front of you here, we receive annually requests from what we call standing agreement holders. These are all folks that are performing services in these facilities. They're all doing a wonderful job. This is not an indictment of the programs or the services they're providing. Please understand that. However, what I can show you here in this exhibit, for instance, in the Howard Warner Gym, we have on Monday a request from 5 different groups for the same exact times. The popularity has grown to where, and keep in mind, these long-term users there's no rental fee, there's no host fee, there's no user fee. Again, they're providing service to the community. They're offering athletic programs to young people in the community, other types of programs, but because of the growth and the investment in these facilities, as well as Ms. Mosley and her staff, we're coming into competing interests, and it's difficult for us to continue managing as we have this many users with looking for the same times. We're struggling with a number of things. One, with zero revenue and increased usage, we have maintenance issues. Now, we would never advocate for creating a cost schedule that would prohibit members of our community from using these facilities. Please don't misunderstand what we're asking for here. However, we do believe that there is an accountability that comes along with one group or one individual paying a little bit of money to use a facility. We are, in our research in this Southwest metro region, the only organization of our size and our type that is giving away for zero fee facilities of this type and this scale. For instance, our counterparts at Coweta County, they use what's called a hosting fee. It's a per person, per pupil fee that's paid for users in their facilities. That's one way of doing it. We've said that's an opportunity here. We've also put together, Ms. Mosley has an opportunity to actually provide a daily fee or a monthly fee for certain facilities. That's one issue that we would like to just bring forward to you is those standing use agreements. They're competing and they're not currently paying for use of this facility, and our staff in the Leisure Services Department is spending significant amount of time in those buildings, maintaining those buildings. So we would like this group to consider either instituting a hosting fee or a flat fee schedule as per the documents that were put in here, increasing those fees, and then allowing, if you want to continue with the long-standing agreement users, allow Ms. Mosley and her staff to put a schedule together that would allow users in the building. We don't feel that we can't accommodate every request in the buildings. There's just not enough space for the amount of people. What we do have here, Ms. Mosley put it together in this colored calendar here for the Howard Warner Gym, the Howard Warner Community Center, as well as the Wesley Street Gym, a proposed calendar that would allow for all of those users in the, quote, long-standing agreements to have access to the building. They're not going to have it 40 hours a week, but they'll have access to it. It's the best we can go if this body wants to continue working with the long-standing users. So that's one issue at hand, probably the most difficult of the three to consider today. The two we believe are kind of lower hanging fruit are instituting a cancellation policy at the Wildsmith Auditorium. Right now you can cancel within a day, the same day you can cancel. That building has grown in popularity, in which we feel like until we address the cancellation policy with something that we've all seen similar in other organizations, or at times when we buy tickets to attend events, there are cancellation policies, or we rent facilities. This does not provide the leisure services staff the opportunity to rent that building back out. And so that's one issue I think we would allow for Ms. Mosley and her staff to better manage and bring acts and other things into that performing arts venue. And then the other is to, again, consider deposit and rental fees for all facilities. Right now, you pay nothing to use a park in our community. Now, they're public parks. We can all go there right now, walk into the park and enjoy it. But if you, in fact, you or your organization want that park for exclusive use, you don't pay for that. And so what we're looking to is to institute a fee schedule. Again, we don't believe it's exorbitant. We believe it's commensurate with other organizations of similar type size in this area. And what you can see here is fees in the range of $100 security deposit and a daily rental fee of $50. That's Greenville Street Park, First Avenue Park. Those are generally the two that we see the most. Sometimes you'll get a Lynch Park or something like that.
And the security deposit is refundable. So that's just they pay that at the time that the rental is made, and then as long as it is determined there are no damages as a result of their event, they do get that security deposit returned.
Okay, so let's take these, I'm gonna have to have separate motions on these, so let's take them one at a time. You've just mentioned the rental fees, state those again, and let me entertain a motion on that. What the council would like to do.
What I can show you here is, for the parks, currently there's a security deposit of $50 and zero fee. What we're asking is for a security deposit of $100 and a fee of $50, all parks.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a motion, hold on, just a second, Barney.
I'll give you
I
a
have a
second.
motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, and a second.
I'm sorry. Are we the cheapest after we put these fees in? I don't think we should
The
be.
cheapest after this.
Yes,
sir.
significantly, yes, sir.
We would still be the cheapest?
Yes, sir.
Well, I just think we ought to look at every year then, because at some point in time, we've got great facilities and we shouldn't necessarily be the cheapest. And I understand the purpose has been good, but I think at some point in time, we need to be realistic and charge at least close to the market rate for this type of facility,
Yes, sir.
as far as the government owning it.
Yes, sir. And yes, sir. The staff does not disagree with that. We're trying to scale up to that, sir.
Okay.
What is the market rate, if you
It
have it, or
depends.
the
It
average?
It depends. It's, what I've found, I did some research on local areas. It ranges anywhere from an hourly, most places do an hourly fee. We have consistently done daily rates, but most of places I have found, they do 1 to 4 hours is an hourly rate, and then after 4 hours turns into the day rate. They range anywhere from $25 to $75 an hour, up to $200 to $300 for the day.
Okay,
So,
all right, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or further questions?
I do. I couldn't quite hear you. What is that is that a daily $50 rate or is that an hourly $50 rate?
Daily.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Okay, that motion carried. What's item 2?
Okay. The cancellation policy for Wadsworth. Members that are renting can cancel up to 60 days ahead of time with no fee, right?
correct.
But if they were to cancel 30 days in advance, they lose,
Deposit.
they lose their deposit. It's not the fee that they pay, they lose their half,
Half deposit, half AV fees.
yeah.
Half deposit,
Half AV, audio
Audio
visual
visual.
fees. You pay an audio visual tech to run lights and sound.
and what is that? How much?
That's $45 an hour with a minimum of 4 hours.
I would,
So that's 180?
Yes, sir.
I would assume they'd lose all their deposit.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Keep us from renting to somebody
Yeah,
else. they'll lose their whole deposit.
Cancellation made after 30 days, it's full deposit's gone. We keep it. We keep your deposit.
And the deposit's what, 100?
It is currently. We do have the rental fees for just like we just did with the parks. We do have a rental fee update in here if we choose
Yeah,
to
we would
move
ask
forward.
For an increase of.
Increase in that.
costs $500. The fee schedule that's listed here on page 44 and 45 of your packet, that fee schedule includes parks, indoor facilities, Wadsworth Auditorium at an hourly rate, a daily rate, and weekly rental rates. It includes updated security deposits and rental fees for nonprofits in the county, nonprofits out of the county, for-profit organizations in the county, and for-profits out of the county.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Everybody understand the schedule and what we're doing here? Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carried. The third item.
Yes, sir. It's to handle these, what we've termed long-standing agreements. These are challenges. This is the challenge one. The group, like I said, none of them are doing a poor job. But how would this group like us to move forward? Of the, how many hours in a week do we have rentable?
Yeah, it's on here.
80? We have 98
98.
available hours from when those times those buildings are open.
Let me ask you a question. All of these long-standing agreements, though, have expiration dates, correct?
They do.
Okay, so it's going to be your job to bring those to us every time they expire, to extend them?
Yes,
They're
sir.
expired, and that's why we're here.
Okay?
They're on an annual basis.
What happened there, Mr. Mayor, during COVID, we had the authority, you remember, if you recall, to manage those contracts.
Right.
And we're at a point in time right now where all of those have expired.
Okay?
And so what Ms. Mosley has presented is an idea of either using the daily fees, or, okay, so no action. They continue to have the facilities for free, the way we've done now, and then we can try and fit them in under the calendar Ms. Mosley put. We can institute and ask those folks, or to compel those folks to pay the fees according to the fee schedule was just adopted, or adopt what we're seeing more commonplace is a hosting fee, which is a percentage per pupil of users. And what we've suggested is a 15% hosting fee for those that have long-standing agreements. So, no
And how much
fee.
does that end up being?
Oh, man, that's a function of the cost of the membership or the person in there. We would deal with that on a case-to-case basis with let's say the Cobra Foundation, we would talk to DeAndre and see how much is a basketball season. And talk to him about that 15% per pupil per season. The same with DeMario, the same with Derek, the same with the other users.
Some are free. They don't.
So wait a
they're
minute.
not charging.
I still got a few questions about that. So say, for instance, we're talking about that it costs $250 for a season per kid. So we're talking about charging half that?
I mean,
our host fee?
15, 1.5%
Percent.
per pupil per season. So on that $250 season membership, if you will, that'd be $37.50.
That's right.
Which is we have found in our research is commonplace in the industry.
Would that be per
Pupil, per person, per season.
per season?
Yes, sir. And if
Okay.
their season was a year, then we would move it over a year. If it was according to an athletic season, a basketball season, a football season, a baseball season.
Now, with this new fee schedule that you're promoting, whatever we're going to approve, we're getting more and more organizations, and they're all good, and they do something. So how are we going to address allowing them to equally give everybody a shot at using the facilities? Because if you start getting one organization, or a handful really,
Right.
and they get a monopoly on it, now our other organizations don't have a shot at getting in.
And that's why we're here today. And that's why we're asking this body to consider instituting this fee schedule, because the condition you just described is what we have right now. We have 4 to 5 users with exclusive use of these buildings. Again, of those 98 total hours available during the week, 86% of those hours are used by 5 users. And those 5 users aren't paying. So what the condition you just described is what we're trying to move away from, and institute an opportunity for other organizations to come in and use the building, not through a fee type approach, but we want to Councilman Schell's point, be commiserate with our colleagues around this part of the Metro Atlanta, bring our fees up where they are, and then also, I think, give an opportunity for other organizations to get in and out of these buildings and utilize them.
My only concern is if one organization can afford more than another organization, they're out of luck, and it's because of money.
Yeah, because that's my issue with, say, the Cobras, for instance, or, the other organizations, that a lot of times they do fundraising. These kids' parents don't actually pay that $250. They have to fundraise for it. And then we're expecting these groups to then come up with another fee to pay us. I mean, it's just adding to the burden of, it's not like these are organizations where they can just pass that cost off to the parents.
But then we're also facing what I hear you addressing is the maintenance issues. We're looking to offset something. I understand we want to be benevolent as possible. However, to create more of a, I guess, equal opportunity and of a level playing field, we have to open it up in some way. And I like the idea of the 15% hosting fee myself. I think it levels things out a bit. Maybe it's not the total solution, but I think it's a good starting.
I don't mind the fee, I don't. But if you get a group that comes in, or they come in first to sign up for the whole year, and then another group comes along in a week, now they're out. That group is out. I have
But
no problem with the fee.
you're not doing that based. It's not a bid. This is not a bid.
No,
If
sir.
it's kind of like first come, first serve. Is that correct?
Well, do they have to have their application in at a certain time, and then
Yes.
y'all figure out
We
who?
collect those.
They did.
And that we meet with them throughout the year, Ms. Mosley and her staff, to make sure
Okay.
they're meeting benchmark.
Well, then that sounds that you're looking at it equitable.
So the reason why we were doing this in the first place, let's kind of go backwards. We had a situation many years ago where, because our fees were such that they were, and because we didn't allow longstanding organizations other than the Boys and Girls Club to be in those buildings long-term, they sat. And once we started working with these groups and started and lowered our fees, we then saw the usage pick up, and we saw a lot more children in particular served in our lowest income communities in our city. So these groups that have come to us, for the most part, have been serving the kids in those neighborhoods outside of the hours that the Boys and Girls Club operates in the buildings. And so my concern is that we'll start to lose some of that impact on the kids who need it the most when we start trying to stop organizations from coming in and using it all the time. Now, I get it that we have some organizations that serve more children than others, who have programs that are impacting kids that are, just frankly doing more for the kids in the neighborhood because they have greater numbers. And somehow I'd like to see us evaluate. If we're going to try and make room, then let's not kick the ones out who are actually serving more children and who are serving the children in the neighborhoods where these buildings are located, because they cannot get to or cannot afford other programs. So, I'd like to see that looked at. I would not like to see us do some blanket thing that says, well, you know what, because we want to give the chance to everybody else, let's just stop allowing organizations that are doing a wonderful job and serving a good number of children to just now have less time. Because I think we're defeating the purpose of what we started doing this for.
Well, my question to that by implementing what I hear you saying, are we saying to the others need not apply?
Not in my opinion, sir, no.
Okay.
I don't. Now, if a condition occurs as Councilperson Jenkins just described, then I think we will have failed. And we will come back to this group and say that the policy decisions made on staff's opinion are decreasing enrollment, decreasing participation, and by no means is that our goal. I promise.
Right.
Mr. Shell.
I think one thing about charging the fees, some groups will become more efficient in their use of it and not dominate it all the time, which will open it up for other groups. Because if it's free, they just don't worry about it. So sometimes, I think they will use it less time, maybe, and maybe somebody else can use it along with that. So I think you'll see some benefits.
It seems to me this would be a good place to start, and for a period of time. It can be revisited at another period of time, but we could put a limit or just suggest a limit. In a couple of years, you got to it goes to somebody else, for example, or a year. I don't know how all that works, but anyway, I'll stop there.
Mr. Mayor, obviously this is a little bit more of a difficult one to take a motion on. I certainly support some type of fee schedule. As we look through this, the only thing that may not be equitable in my mind is if it's 15%, it would still be 15% of someone that's utilizing the facility 8 hours a day, and 15% for someone that may be utilizing the facility 40 hours a week. So maybe we should not take action on this today and maybe try to drill down into a specific format that is based upon the amount of utilization per se. Plus individual, to make it a little bit more equitable. I sense there is some support, even though I certainly understand Councilmember Jenkins' position. There appears to be some support for some type of fee basis is what I'm hearing. But if we're not comfortable today, certainly don't rush to make a motion. We'd be happy to come back with some more detail if you'd like.
Any objection to Mr. Phillips' suggestion that they take a deeper dive into this and bring it back to us? We voted on the first two.
Yes, sir.
They're there.
Yes, sir.
They're taken care of.
Yeah, I don't have a problem in bringing it back. I think there's some other parameters that we may want to look at, such as performance. Sometimes we'll have an organization that says they'll serve 50, but they're really only serving 10. We can look at that. We can look at the number of kids who are low income in the program. That's one of the factors we've used in assessing for other organizations that are in our facilities for no charge as well, and who are doing a fantastic job, and we wouldn't dream of moving them out or charging them more. So I think that there are some other factors there that we could look at to try and make this more equitable, but not throwing out those who are doing a fantastic job of serving the children who we think they should be serving.
Good point. Okay, without objection, then we'll bring this back to council. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
There is one
Appreciate
more item that we had put in there. There's one user, Prevailing Grace Ministries, who's been in there as a long-standing user, who is using the facility for routine religious services.
Which facility?
Howard
Howard
Warner
Warner Gym.
Gymnasium. The gentleman, we know him, we've worked with him in the past. He had come in under an annual contract, long-standing agreement, whatever you'd like to call it, with the idea that he was going to have small group sessions, and we rent to faith-based groups all the time. The faith-based groups that are in our community are oftentimes some of the best users we have, some of our best, and so by no means are we looking at moving away from faith-based groups. However, this user is essentially hosting a church. It's routine religious services on a Sunday that you would find in another facility somewhere else, and we wanted to bring it to your attention because we know there's a precedent that exists where we have not rented city facilities for routine religious services for an active congregation in our community. And so our suggestion is that while we love the gentleman who's there and Prevailing Grace Ministries, and if they want to rent from time to time, like other faith-based groups, by all means, please come to us. We'd love to have you, but the hosting of a routine, regular religious service, we feel is not in line with some of the action that's been taken by this group in the past.
All right, we moved away from that at Wadsworth
Yes, sir.
years ago.
What would you see as a proper notice to give this person?
Well, we would just help him understand that we're not going to be able to renew his annual contract.
And the other thing is, what
Well,
is,
he's welcome to come, I'm sorry, Councilman Alexander.
no, and what is a routine, are you saying once a month? You saying, you'll have to come up with that also.
Well, we would now, under the recently adopted fee schedule, he would be an in-county nonprofit. He could rent the building, according to the fee schedule you guys have used, or we just adopted here. And he can use it from time to time as he sees fit. But a long-standing agreement where they're not paying any fee, using the facility every Sunday, and I think Wednesdays now also, Wednesday evenings, that we're suggesting we move away from that in accordance with the precedent that the mayor just described.
The current policy as it stands is 2 consecutive days once a month without a standing agreement.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. I'm fine with that and keeping with what we have done in the past. I mean, we have to be fair.
If we're in
Okay.
agreement, that gives us direction. I'm seeing a couple
That's the direction.
affirmative nods.
So my question is, and I think somebody's asked it, but I couldn't hear the answer to it, is how long, when is their expiration of their agreement? Because I would really hate to call up Pastor Elder tomorrow and y'all, and say, hey, you know what, without any preamble, you got to move out and you can't come back Sunday, like this Sunday for church.
Well, Councilperson Jenkins, Jermaine and Pastor Elder's aware of these conversations. We've talked with him. This would not be a surprise. We've had numerous conversations with him, and the long-standing agreement actually sunset 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, and they all know we're here today.
Well, but in fairness, we need to give them an out. I mean, if it's 60 days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to find someplace
That's right.
to meet.
60 days, I'm fine with 60 days.
Okay, so we're talking about mid-March, end of April would be more than 60 days.
Yeah, that'd be a reasonable amount.
End of April?
Works for me.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a consideration of facility use, no, I'm sorry. The next item is a consideration of the naming of the city's new pickleball facility. Ms. Copeland has this on the agenda
She
today.
does, but she's manning our social media, so I'm gonna speak for her. I'll do the
Oh,
best I can.
here she comes.
Oh, here she comes.
She's coming down.
Here she
All right.
comes. Come on down, Ms. Copeland. How are you today?
Mr. Mayor, before we have the next folks come up, if I can make a point of personal privilege, it's difficult to hear in the microphone when when folks are masked. If they could take the mask down to speak into the microphone, it would help hearing a whole lot. I think Councilwoman Jenkins also maybe mentioned it's kind of difficult to hear. So that'd be my request, so I can actually hear the more of the discussion.
I agree that we need to hear better, but if you don't feel comfortable taking your mask down, just lean in and talk louder.
Hopefully you guys can hear me pretty good.
Mr. Craig, just speak louder into
Okay.
the mic. That'd be fine.
All right, well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Before you are the formal name suggestions that we've compiled from social media and the community regarding the city's new pickleball facility. There has been a chart that's been created through our suggestions, as well as a overview from the Parks Commission late in January. So we've got the formal name suggestions, but then there's also nickname suggestions as well that would be marketed aside from the name that's chosen. So we've come down to 4 names total of the 121 that were submitted, with the 2 nickname options. So we need you all's suggestion or approval before we can make signage for the facility.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a question.
Yes.
Was Mr. Perkins and Mr. Murdy, were they also told about the hop and the dill?
Yes.
Okay, so they know it.
Yes, they are
Did
aware.
Did they have any preference on nickname?
That I would not know. I know that they were at the meeting, and these were all of the suggestions, I guess, total from that group that were present during
Right.
that meeting.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to can I make a motion?
Well,
Yeah?
Wait
Or
a
we
minute.
If there's discussion about preference or motion,
Well, I have a preference on to make a motion for the Newnan Pickleball Complex with the nickname of The Hop.
Okay.
is there a second?
Second?
Okay, so the motion before us is the formal name would be Newnan Pickleball Complex. The nickname selection would be The Hop, the House of Pickleball.
And I hope some individuals don't get confused with the hop with IHOP.
It's not for dancing or any of that other stuff,
Clever
right?
play on words there.
Okay. Any other comments beside Mr. Alexander? All right, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion before us on the naming of the pickleball complex and the hop, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you for your hard work. The next item on the agenda is being withdrawn today. I had a phone call from the Newnan Housing Authority attorney. The person who asked for this agenda item to be placed on the agenda gotten a bit ahead of herself, and he is asking for that to be withdrawn. So it'll come back to us at a later date. The next item on the agenda is a discussion related to a selection of a firm for master planning services for Caldwell Tanks redevelopment project. All right, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, this is a follow-up from previous presentations we had received from 3 firms, 3 excellent firms. So the discussion here today is not, who is not qualified. The discussion today is, who is the best fit for this particular project. Just a little update. We are still in due diligence for the site acquisition. We are hoping to get our final word on the due diligence here any day now, and hope to be able to close within 2 to 3, 4 weeks maximum. Everything is looking positive, so I don't want to, put any words in your mouth as far as what future actions would be. But I think it is imperative that we start this process of discussing who is going to be the firm that is going to lead us down this master planning effort provided we do close. Again, I'm not sitting here saying we're guaranteeing we're closing today, but we are heading in that direction. I think it would be prudent for this body to give staff some direction on who we want to engage to lead us in that all-important exercise. I do have Eric Johnson and Jalen with CPS. They actually put together the overview of the three firms that is in your packet today. We are ready to speak on those three firms if needed, answer your questions if needed, and also if needed, we will make a recommendation.
All right. Council proceed by Mr. Johnson coming up and answering any questions we may have, or Dylan, one of the two?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions, I know myself or Mr. Johnson, we certainly are prepared. Mr. Craver, we've all been involved. You listened to the three presentations. I do know it's been a few months now, but CPS put together an excellent overview of what they heard and those presentations, and I certainly do agree.
I guess
one of the major questions I have is, considering all of the considerations that we're putting forward and trying to make a decision here, what in your mind and in Mr. Johnson's mind, specifically his mind, is the most important quality that we would look for? If you'll come up to the, I mean, it's certainly not price, so although we don't want to give the implication that we are just willing to pay any price whatsoever, but other than money, what would be the single most important quality you would think of these three firms would carry us through the day?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having us. I think the most critical thing we looked at is Newnan has a very viable downtown. One thing we did not want this development to kind of shed the environment from downtown to have two separate entities. We thought that was critical. So what we were listening to was how to draw in Caldwell Tank's property with some forms of development that made sense here to draw people to the downtown area while supporting the actual downtown itself, and how you interconnected the two pieces of property in the long term. We view this as a 50, 100-year kind of program, development program. So that's kind of what we're looking at, who had somewhat the bigger picture, again, all excellent firms, who kind of tried to draw all of it together while continuing to support and make sure that downtown was downtown and viable. It's actually supported your downtown district. So that's kind of what we were looking at, if that makes sense.
It does. So which of these three do you think possesses that quality more than the other?
Boom.
It's not that you're on the hot seat or anything.
I believe one firm did talk about the fact, and in my opinion, I do believe we need to engage the county, because there's property between this property and the county property. Not that they have to do anything with their property whatsoever, but have them in the discussion. And there was one firm who their process was to engage the county. And again, I was looking at it more of a 100-year solution. But again, both of the others, CPS would help with Hasco and Cletus, help direct that effort. But there was one firm, if everything else was equal, there was one firm who brought that up in their proposal. And so it's very hard to say. Again, we felt it always needed to happen anyway, so we would have engaged that in all of our conversations in the master planning. But one actually had that as part of their process. So if
One
there's
company, but that particular company already had started the dialogue. Was
I
my
believe so,
understanding.
and
If I heard correctly in his presentation, he'd already reached out, and which to me was significant as well.
So I think I heard that too, Councilman, and it's kind of like looking at the price. We can always negotiate the price. We were trying, so I really didn't look, I couldn't tell you what the prices were of these three. I think we know what it should cost you, and we'll get to that point. I think it's such an exciting and vibrant project, I would think all of them would do it almost for nothing. I think most of them are probably at cost anyway. I believe I believe you're correct, but I didn't really hone in on whether or not they had talked to the county or not, just the fact that they felt it was important to engage them in the conversation.
And that was Nelson.
Yes, sir.
That was Nelson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, please.
Have you worked with Nelson and Associates?
That's a toughie. Lamar Wakefield, the head of Nelson, and Ron Stang, the head of S&W, are two very close friends of mine. I've worked with both of them for over 35 years.
Okay.
And those are the two, when Haskell and Cletus asked who we thought, personally, I thought those were the two best firms and the two gentlemen we wanted, and they both showed up. I did not ask them to show up. They both did themselves. Okay, so again, it's tough, but one firm did have what I thought was going to be a critical component, which was to draw, and I'm sorry, I don't recall them saying that, but I guess they did. I know they talked about engaging the county.
But
And
you
again,
have
not that the county has to do anything, just get them in the big master planning of the whole area, so downtown Newnan, the square, stays as the center of this whole thing.
But you have worked with Nelson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it was a positive,
Positive with both Nelson and S&W,
okay,
and with Lamar and Ron Stang, both personally. And I
Okay.
believe both of them will be personally involved in this project.
all right, thank you.
I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question, if you don't mind, and that is, does one firm over the other have more of a sense of historic preservation over considering downtown Newnan?
Another great question. I think the fact that we have both Lamar Wakefield and Ron Stang both involved, they both have a long history of handling historical projects. And both of them, I believe, will be leading the efforts. They both said in their presentations, those both would be leading the effort in this historical one. S&W has some really neat historical reuse in like Avondale Estates. But I know that Nelson and Wakefield Beasley has done some as well, so.
Most of you know that I'm the chairman of the property committee at GMA, and we have just finished that 20 million plus remodel.
We sure did,
Well,
yes.
we haven't finished the remodel, but
Right.
we've completed, we got the keys turned over on the new construction of that building at GMA, and S&W was the architect there. And they did a masterful job
They
of
did.
making that building fit into what is southwest downtown Atlanta, I guess. If that's a quadrant that it's
Yeah,
in.
that's accurate.
And so, got experience with using them and understanding that they listened to what GMA was telling them.
Clearly.
And delivered. Of course, that was new construction, but you got to remember, there's going to be some new construction on this site too.
Yep.
It's not
Yes,
just
sir.
going to be, and it needs to, where it needs to not take away from downtown, it certainly needs to blend into that architecture.
Absolutely.
Well, I think not only not take away from it, but support downtown and make it even more vibrant. And not have
Absolutely.
a division between the two.
Well,
Yeah, I agree, with Councilman DeBose on this. Both firms have I'm familiar with a couple of their projects, with each one. I love the space, the placemaking that Nelson does on most of their projects. They just feel like good spaces when you're in them. But one thing that really struck me about S&W was their ability to do something that was unique. It wasn't cookie cutter. It wasn't something that you could pick up and put anywhere USA. They were fitting to that environment, and that was their strength in their presentation to me. So I think that one of the reasons why we're even in this is because we realize that this is something unique to Newnan. It doesn't need to look like something that has been somewhere else, but something that really uniquely fits in to downtown Newnan. And 100 years from now, it'll feel like it was always there. So that's my conundrum right now is making sure that we get a firm that creates spaces that people want to be in and that feel good, but that also has some sort of architectural design to it with the new and the old that fits in with our historic downtown and enhances our historic downtown.
Mayor Pro Tem Shell has a
Oh,
comment.
yes, I mentioned this to Cletus the other day. I thought that each firm brought something's very important to us. But I told Cletus, I thought Nelson, because of their vision, when they looked out and said that parking lot could be different, that they're just looking to incorporate it better into the whole area and not just to be in a freestanding site. Now, I'm sure the other ones would think about it too, but I just felt like when they explained what they were looking at the whole downtown at the same time. They were presenting that. So I like the way they did it. I wouldn't be disagreeable to anybody else, but I felt like Nelson itself was the best one for that.
Yeah, I would, one of the things that struck me about Nelson, he used a phrase that just jumped off at me was a sense of scale, and also the integration of the new site to the downtown, kind of the seamless approach, and that's what we're all really looking for, is how does it look seamless, how is it integrated into the city as it just has always been there. I like the way that he presented, Nelson presented in regards to how they go about soliciting input from the citizens and the different ways they start drilling down and getting those types of feedback. I think from my perspective, it's they're all really very good, and I agree with Councilman Schell that they all bring a unique and brought some really ideas, but to me it was boiling down, and it still boils down to the pros and cons and pluses and minuses, so to speak, and I really like what Nelson said, just the sense of scale and the ability to look at the space, and whether we maintain some of the structures that exist or whether we don't. I'm looking for the company that can do either or and excel at both.
Thank you. Okay, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Hey, this is Karitko. I liked what S&W had. I agree with Councilman Jenkins that they seem to bring a good element of the historicity of Newnan and keeping that old style while keeping it new and bringing in that fresh approach. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject. Again, a point of personal preference, I couldn't hear at all what Mr. Schell said at all. But anyway, if you just give a quick recap of that.
What I said was that I talked to Cletus the other day and told him that all three of them I thought had good elements that they presented. But I felt like when Nelson talked about the parking deck across with the county, that he was looking to incorporate that whole area into the downtown. He saw, to me, that vision they showed was showing that spot was not just freestanding, but they had the vision to incorporate it into everything around it and make it an improvement to everything around it. So I just felt like that they had a little bit better vision of what we wanted and what would be good for us, because we don't all know exactly what's the best for sure. That's what we're hiring them to do, to give us some good ideas and let us take those. I just felt like Nelson overall was the best of the three. And I told Cletus that. I didn't just say that because the same thing Eric said about that parking deck, but that impressed me more than anything.
Anyone else have any other comments? Ms. Phillips, earlier you said a recommendation, but I'm not sure we're going to put you, considering the discussion we've had, I'm not sure we're going to put you on the spot.
Obviously, we got two really good firms after that.
Sure.
Come to the top, and I can say this for a recommendation. We'll be happy to work with you firm.
Yeah, right.
I mean, maybe it was the CPS's fault for bringing us two really good firms.
Mayor, will you
By the way, for the record, it's always my fault. So if there's ever an issue.
Then I'll lay it off on council. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I make a motion that we accept Nelson.
A second.
Motion to second, we hire Nelson for the Caldwell Tanks project, site development, design group. Any discussion, questions? Big step, folks. Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Aye.
So we've got, I'm sorry.
1, 2,
4,
3.
2. You were opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so we've got 3 opposed, 4 in favor. Motion passes. Okay, we don't have anything today under visitors, petitions, but we do have a need for a legal, thank you, Ms. Johnson, for a legal executive session.
I move that we now enter into a closed session as allowed by OCGA 50-14-4 and pursuant to the advice of the city attorney for the purpose of discussing legal and real estate. Personnel is not there, is it?
No.
Okay. And that we, in open session, adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and presiding officer to execute an affidavit on the compliance of OCGA 50-14-4, and this body ratify the actions the council taken in the closed session and confirm that the subject matters of closed session were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second?
All right, we have a motion second to go into executive session for legal and